Riley Donovan, a 35-year-old horticulturist with calloused hands from years of tilling soil and a perpetual tan from sun-soaked fields, had planted roots in Harvest Hollow 5 years back, chasing the dream of a family farmette amid suburbia. His 2-acre lot, zoned for light agriculture since the neighborhood's founding in the 1970s, brimmed with heirloom pumpkins, massive Atlantic giants swelling to 1,000 pounds, their rinds etched with natural swirls like monster hides, and smaller varieties like Cinderella pumpkins that glowed like enchanted coaches under moonlight. Riley consulted for the University of Northern Colorado's Ag Extension program, breeding disease-resistant gourds in his backyard greenhouse, a glass-domed sanctuary filled with the earthy scent of compost and the hum of grow lights. He hosted school tours where wide-eyed kids like his own son Finn learned to hollow out lanterns with safety scoops, their laughter echoing as they scraped out fibrous innards. Halloween was sacred in the Donovan household. Their front yard became a pumpkin patch paradise with hay bales stacked into thrones, scarecrows with burlap grins guarding the vines, and a 500-pounder centerpiece where Finn, in his goblin costume complete with green face paint and a pointed hat, posed for annual photo ops. Riley's wife, Lena, a graphic designer with a flair for the macabre, painted eerie faces on the giants using non-toxic acrylics, twisted grins with glowing LED eyes that flickered like will-o'-the-wisps, drawing trick-or-treaters from blocks away and turning their doorstep into a candy-fueled carnival. The patch wasn't just decoration. It was Riley's living lab, where he tracked pollination with tiny sensors embedded in the blooms, data that fed into his research on urban farming resilience against climate whims. The HOA's specter was embodied by Delores Voss, a 59-year-old ex-librarian whose once quiet life had curdled into a cauldron of control after her husband's passing left her with too much time and a grudge against chaos. With a beehive of steel-gray hair that defied gravity like a witch's hat, horn-rimmed glasses perpetually fogged with indignation, and a golf cart she dubbed her patrol pumpkin, adorned with orange hubcaps and a fake jack-o'-lantern grill, Dolly zipped through Harvest Hollow like a grim reaper on wheels. Her rules book, a dog-eared tome of 200 pages bound in faux leather, banned anything garish or oversized, code for crushing creativity under the boot of conformity. She patrolled at dawn, her megaphone crackling with edicts. No inflatable ghouls over 3 feet. Or fog machines create unsafe vapors, 150 fine. Beneath her facade of fiscal prudence, Dolly orchestrated a lucrative haunt of her own. She pocketed $120,000 in holiday fund dues over 3 years, rerouting them to her side hustle selling knockoff decorations on Etsy under fake accounts like Spooky Suburbia Crafts, while strong-arming vendors for kickbacks at Pumpkin Palooza. Her vendetta against Riley stemmed from his farm freak show, drawing crowds that bypassed her approved elegant setup, white mums in porcelain pots and battery-operated candles flickering in glass hurricanes. "Your overgrown orchard is a tripping hazard and an eyesore," she'd hissed at Riley during a previous inspection, slapping a yellow sticker on his scarecrow. Deep down, Dolly envied the joy radiating from the Donovan's yard, a stark contrast to her sterile colonial, where plastic skeletons gathered dust in the garage. The nightmare carved itself on All Hallows' Eve, as the first frost nipped at the vines and the moon hung low like a pumpkin lantern. Riley and Finn were out in the patch, knee-deep in dew-kissed leaves, stringing cobwebs between the hay bales and testing the LED eyes on the giants. Lena called from the porch, her voice warm with hot cocoa invitations, when the low rumble of Dolly's golf cart pierced the night. It pulled up with a squeal, Dolly dismounting like a fury from folklore, her clipboard clutched like a grimoire. "Mr. Donovan, this pumpkin pandemonium violates Section 7.2. Remove it by dawn or face a $500 lien on your property," she barked, her glasses slipping down her nose. Riley, wiping soil from his hands, straightened with a patient smile honed from years of dealing with skeptical clients. "Dolly, these are heirlooms, not hazards. Check the zoning docs. Egg use is grandfathered from the original plat. The patch boosts community spirit. Last year we had 200 kids here." Finn, clutching a mini pumpkin, piped up, "Yeah, and we give out free seeds." But Dolly's eyes narrowed like a witch's slits, her lips curling into a sneer. "Spirit, this is suburbia, not a state fair. Conform or consequences." She stormed off, her cart's taillights fading like dying embers, but Riley felt the chill of her threat linger longer than the frost. As midnight tolled from the distant church steeple, Dolly's real intentions came to light through the shadows. Riley's security cameras, discreet solar-powered units camouflaged as birdhouses, activated automatically, capturing every detail of her secret mission in crystal clarity. Cloaked in a hooded black poncho for anonymity, Dolly returned in her golf cart, towing a small rented trailer filled with heavy tools, bolt cutters that gleamed under the moonlight, a pneumatic jackhammer borrowed from a shady hardware connection, and a chainsaw resting quietly at her side. She started by cutting away the thick vines, their stems parting with soft, wet cracks as the leaves shivered and fell. Then targeting the prize of the garden, Riley's champion pumpkin, an 800-pound marvel he had nurtured with care and research, she powered up the jackhammer. The night filled with its deafening rhythm as bits of the pumpkin scattered across the soil. Dolly worked in determined silence until she finally shouted, "No more gourd gallery, this ends the show." She paused, catching her breath and straightening her slightly disheveled hair before disappearing into the darkness, leaving behind a trail of seeds and broken stems. Moments later, Finn was awakened by the noise and ran outside in his pajamas, heartbroken at the sight of the damaged pumpkin, the one painted with a goblin king design by Lena. Riley and Lena hurried to comfort him, their hearts heavy with disbelief. Riley's anger simmered beneath the surface, but his response would be clever, not reckless. As a horticulturist with a PhD in plant pathology, he knew pumpkins could hold more than just seeds. They held data. Embedded RFID tags from his research began sending alerts about tampering. Wearing gloves, Riley carefully collected the remains for evidence, noting distinctive tool marks and Dolly's unmistakable floral perfume that lingered in the air. But the real discovery came from the security system. Dolly herself had set up the neighborhood's cameras months earlier and connected them to HOA servers under her control. With a quick digital maneuver, exploiting her weak password, Riley accessed logs linking her directly to the footage. Cross-checking public vendor data, he uncovered her hidden scheme. Thousands of dollars in HOA dues funneled through fake Etsy shops and false receipts for decorations that never existed. Determined to expose the truth, Riley formed a small alliance. Hank, a retired police officer who understood evidence handling, Lena's tech-savvy coworker who enhanced the footage, and Professor Elena Vasquez from the university, who verified the botanical damage to the experimental pumpkins. When dawn arrived with a glowing orange sky, the annual Pumpkin Palooza was already buzzing with families and music. Riley took the main stage, microphone in hand, as the crowd fell silent. "Folks," he began, "our HOA's been tricking us for years. Last night our leader destroyed my family's prize pumpkin, not for safety but for control." He projected the security footage on the big screen, showing Dolly's midnight mission in clear, undeniable detail. Gasps spread through the crowd like a breeze through cornfields. Parents, neighbors, and children watched as the truth played out before them. Riley continued, unveiling a digital audit that traced HOA funds directly into Dolly's personal accounts, under the guise of community purchases. She wasn't just enforcing rules, she was funding her own side business. The crowd erupted in disbelief and frustration. Families recalled unfair fines and strange charges over the years. Soon a chant rose up, "No more Dolly," and as the morning sun brightened the festival grounds, Riley finally felt justice take root among his neighbors. Dolly, sensing the tide turning, stormed the stage from the wings, her megaphone clutched like a talisman, beehive quivering. Fabrications. Slanderous lies from a gourd-growing gadfly. "I'll sue for defamation, call the cops, this is my neighborhood." Her voice cracked over the speakers. But Greeley PD was already en route, their cruisers weaving through hayride traffic with lights flashing like fireflies in a graveyard. Officers, briefed overnight by Hank with Riley's ironclad evidence packet, footage on USB, RFID logs printed, soil samples sealed in vials, descended like avenging spirits. The lead detective, a burly woman in a witch hat for the occasion, slapped cuffs on Dolly amid the hay bales, her poncho from the night before peeking from her golf cart's cargo. Vandalism in the first degree, theft over $100,000, wire fraud. "Happy Halloween, ma'am. We've got your rental receipt for the jackhammer. GPS pings you at the scene." As kids snapped pics on their phones, the Ag Board's rep, Professor Vasquez in a lab coat over her vampire cape, stepped up. "Those Atlantic giants were protected experimental stock. $20,000 fine for crop destruction, plus restitution for the research loss. Dolly's empire rotted on the spot. Etsy account suspended mid-sale, asset freezes on her colonial and golf cart, and a plea deal hammered out in court 2 weeks later, landing her 24 months probation, 500 hours of community haunt service at the co-op farm, and $150,000 in restitution, split between victims' funds and a new Pumpkin Palooza endowment for underprivileged families. Harvest Hollow haunted its old ways into oblivion. The HOA dissolved in a pumpkin vine vote at an emergency meeting, 86% in favor, with ballots carved from mini gourds for flair, spawning the Hollow Harvest Co-op, a democratic delight chaired by Riley and Lena. They reclaimed Palooza from Dolly's elegant mandates, unleashing a free-for-all frenzy. Massive pumpkin drops from rented cranes, where 1,000-pounders plummeted into splash zones for cheers, haunted hay mazes with actor ghosts leaping from stalks, and Finn's Gourd Guardian contest where kids carved anti-tyrant lanterns, fierce faces with HOA rulebooks as tongues of flame. Fines flipped to grants overnight. Riley's patch expanded into a co-op farm on donated lots, supplying schools with organic squash and hosting seedling spooktacular workshops where families learned to breed their own giants. Lena designed spooky murals on community barns, vines entwining cartoon Karens with jack-o'-lantern heads, turning Dolly's old patrol pumpkin cart into a haunted prop, rigged with fog and eerie moans for Palooza rides. Neighbors once cowed bloomed. The widow started a yarn spider guild, the young couple inflated a Grim Reaper army, and Hank the cop led trick-or-treat safety patrols on bikes decked with glow sticks. A chilling twist unfurled in the rubble of the pulped giant, as Riley sifted the innards one foggy November morn. Amid the fibrous mess and scattered seeds, his fingers brushed a hard edge, not a lost tool but a microchip, glinting like a buried curse. It wasn't his RFID, it was Dolly's, a spy device from her vendor kickback scheme. She'd planted trackers in donated decorations, fake cobwebs, battery candles, to monitor rivals' sales at Palooza, but one had lodged in his pumpkin during a shady swap at a back-alley farm supply meet. The chip's logs, decrypted by Lena's forensics friend, revealed a web of deceit. Calls to a fence in Denver for stolen ag gear, texts coordinating with a statewide scam ring peddling counterfeit seeds. Riley forwarded it to the FBI's ag fraud unit, triggering the Great Gourd bust. A multi-state sweep nabbing Dolly's accomplices, with headlines blaring, Pumpkin Probe Nabs, HOA Haunter, $500K, Agri-Scam Cracked. Finn dubbing it the Great Gourd Bust in his school project, a diorama of carved pumpkins with tiny cop figures, earned an A+ and a spot on the co-op's junior board, where he advocated for no more squishy rules. As All Souls Night twinkled with 1,000 lanterns 2 years on, Riley carved a new giant beside Finn under the same harvest moon, their blades sinking like an incantation, Lena sketching goblin kings on the rind. Dolly's jack-o'-lantern grin had faded to jailhouse pallor during her probation stints, her patrol pumpkin, now a candy dispenser at Palooza, doling treats to the kids she once terrorized. Harvest Hollow bloomed eternal autumn, vines twisting free from iron rules whispering through the wind. Carve wisely, or get pulped by the patch you scorn. Riley's farm thrived, a beacon for wayward gourds and weary souls. Proof that one jacked giant could seed a revolution where spooks were for fun, not fines, and every home glowed with unbridled haunt.